And we're live. Welcome, guys. You know who I am. It really doesn't matter. Okay, let's focus because there's a lot to do. And I can't say how long this stream is going to take. We are going to bring in a lot of historical documentation. We have a couple sources. It's a story about the Matrix. And I think that there's really more than one Matrix, no doubt. I mean, we live in a multidimensional plane, right? So, in the last week, one of the videos I put up, at the end of the show, it fell right in. And in the meantime, let me go to my videos and let you know the name of of what it is. Okay, so what I'm talking about is when I did this little video called Who Made Who, Elvis Adam Presley, all of a sudden it was in that video. And the way it happened is a local Fergusonian who's our friend came to visit, and we got into a conversation, and the next thing you know, it was the thing that we documented on tape, on video. In the meantime, I have been reporting on the story of St. Louis and North County my entire life, just by living here and speaking up. And so it develops a very interesting background. And of course, we know that all my information has been plagiarized and misused and rewritten and chewed up and spit out. And, it's just really stupid, but I see why now. So in the meantime, it's like with a lot of my books, I may have read them 10 years ago, and I comprehended a great amount of it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have followed me into this present moment that we're in. But every time I dive back into a book, I find something more important that applies to the specific time. So when we're talking about how do I do what I do, considering that in the beginning of me being asked to document my journey, always real time and current as we go along, well, you really do. You sound like a fucking nut or a narcissist or a wannabe if all of a sudden what people are communicating out there in the communities, whether it's in public, out on the streets, or virtually like we do on the internet, it's the same thing. So as I got back into the books, it was like I was seeing the scripts come to life that people are referring to in the online code conversation, which now everybody is really full aware of. I don't think that there's any community that could say that they are not using the code, because they always use names that are relevant and relative in current day media, but it's not really them that it's happening to. And then everybody gets pissed off because they're actors. And I keep saying, when people call me an actress, I say, no, that is me in action. And people go, like this. Now, that's pretty stupid too, because here again, we have history. And so one of our first references, we have 2 books like this, and there was only 2 that were ever published in this town. But one is called Ferguson, a City and Its People. And then the one we're going to be working out of today, which is marked and ready to go, is called Ferguson, A City Remembered, and it's a pictorial history. Okay. I know the history of where we live in St. Louis. It is actually what they call a twin mound city. And so when you talk about Cahokia Mounds, everybody says it's in Illinois. Well, a river is what divides, and believe it or not, we have East St. Louis on the other side of the river, so that is St. Louis. People fight over whether it's Missouri or Illinois. That's how they lie to people. It's not really anything that we want to engage in, and we'll find it several times in the books. I'm talking about all the way back to this stupid Louisiana Purchase story. And of course, remember, Columbus didn't discover America, and it was taken from the indigenous, and I am indigenous. Hi, Davy. Yes, we are doing American history today, sir. And I'll tell you what, I can't say it was ever one of my favorite subjects. I can always remember reading in the books how stupid the stuff sounded. And it was nothing like what I was experiencing. And in the meantime, you want to be focused on the subjects you do love. And so, for example, with Rudolf Steiner Waldorf school method, which was completely stolen and plagiarized and prostituted, by the way. But it was always art, science, I'm sorry, art, nature, and eurythmy, which would be like flow and speech, play production, however you want to call it, even mystery school productions. So, yeah, it's all about American history today. But the thing that's weird about it, like I was saying, okay, so let me tell you where there's some blatant lies in this history before we delve in, because it's part of the matrix. So, back to St. Louis, okay? There were mounds cut off and destroyed over here to build North St. Louis, where I live. Okay, now, if our whole community and this whole North St. Louis is blighted, well, then, of course, you have the reason from the government to come in and fuck shit up and tear it down and hide the evidence. That's democide. That's death by government. And it really offends my spirit. Okay, now, in the meantime, in these books, they're going to tell you straight up, straight out that when they flattened these hilly lands, that they didn't find any evidence of any Indian stuff. And you know that they were trying to hide it. It's about erasing history. So anyhow, in the story, whether it was Indians or colored people, they were here before this city became incorporated in 1894. When we work with our timeline in our history lessons, we know that 1917 is a pain in our ass, because that's when they start the secret projects here in St. Louis. And so, that's only 6 plus 17 is 23. It's like a 20 and back plus, right? Or minus. But there were Native American Indians, along with every breed of person that isn't pasty white, brought in here to work for the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. Now, the Native American Indians were here, because I have artwork that came out of they redid a historic building, and they used to stuff them with paper for insulation. And so they actually had a live play at the Savoy Theater in Ferguson where real life Indians told their story. And in these stories I've told about Ferguson, even though knew I was coming here for the last battle, and even though I knew that there was religiously deviant behavior going on that I was actively getting beat over the head with, along with political oppression, which, believe me, I know how it fits in now, and we can work that out too. No wonder they told me that I wasn't welcome to live or work here. And you have to think, what the hell? This is a community of choice and yickety yak. But if I'm nothing more than an engine, because see, I'm indigenous to North America. The Glasscocks were here in the 1600s. And, like on one of the intel messages I was picking up on the other night, I mean, there's many that say that I'm cursed to hell, whether it's my mom gave me away to the devil or because I wasn't baptized in the church when I was born. It's really a lot more than that. It's about a lineage, a blood lineage. And so what they were saying is that is a cursed lineage. And you think, who made who, and who are you, and what the fuck do you know about a cursed lineage? And don't all of us have them? I mean, obviously we must, or the world wouldn't be so screwed up now. I think people curse, and that's why they say no cussing in the chat. See, that's code for we do not lay curses down on humans in these conversations that we are having. It's not about me saying fuck. I could say that all day long. They know my intention. And that is what the purge is online, and even the whole stuff about Halloween, or I mean Valentine's Day. The idea that, well, it's another way to suck money off of people that don't have money. It's really about a massacre and a couple mobs fighting each other. And, I'm thinking it has something to do with the church, because I'm asking about what about St. Valentine? I'm thinking about St. Nicholas. There is so much dogma and so much superstition in our religion and politics, which is, of course, why, Sir Chantelot had to reel me into his spirituality and politics show and turn me into a New Age nut. It's as stupid as having Republican or Democrat or left or right. Like in this town, okay, here's another thing. If in the beginning of the town, this book clearly shows that they chose out certain colored people that they employed and allowed to live here in districts. How did it digress from that at the turn of the century into the 1950s, where a colored person couldn't be here after dark? And then the next thing you know, we have desegregation, we have all the political turmoil, we have the destruction of the infrastructure. It's fascinating. And so to see it in historic pictures, how beautiful it was. And you think, wow, did they really just build all that for the World's Fair? I mean, how could that be? It doesn't make any damn sense. But not too much of this does. Especially as we get into the Matrix episode. So What I want to do is carefully work in an order because this isn't only to document the idea that some schmuck. All right, now hang on, let me get my little pieces of paper. Okay, let's look at how a line of shit floats down the stream. There's a dude that is like diaper wearing, crying, um, talking about his son and the terrible things that happened and the weird pervert man that made him do it all. And his name is Tom Outwood. What I thought was so odd about that is there are names that are so close to ALTWOOD involved in this conspiracy from hell. You know, you got to think this all means something because he claims to be the writer of The Matrix. And at the same time, we have Cherry Joyce promoting him. And, you know, Terry Joyce is one of them gamer journalists. And so she's like Channelot, where the more shit they pump out, they keep erasing their damn footage. And that's why, for real, I have done investigations where I catch it live because I know they're going to take it down. And then I'm the bad guy for that. I mean, you know, if you can play war games with our towns, our communities, the internet, our banking system, the fucking infrastructure, and the whole 9 yards. I mean, I say we gotta get these crybabies to shut up when they're talking to us because it's what you call the political agenda. And see, it really is tied to religion and politics. And then you go spinning around again. So let me run the line of horse shit. Terry Joyce was connected to Ferguson before Mike Brown was murdered. That's pretty weird. American Freedom Radio, you know, and then we get into the big story about the two guys broke up and somebody died. And, you know, then you get all these spawns off of this behavior. And so as I go on my line, we come to Randy. And Randy is who recruited me and then left me and called me every rotten name in the book and told me I was too much, too many, and winds up being a fragmented psycho in another community. That's what spy versus spy will get you when you're playing for greed and for power and for money. Now, me, I gave all my information freely. That's why I did it. Not for them to put it in a secret file on the dark web so everybody could shit on it. But it's funny how this American Freedom Radio has direct ties back to CCN, the Conscious Consumer Network. Flip the CNN around and you get CNN, right? And Mel is so powerful, Katie Roby, that she can erase all Mel's stuff from the internet and go, poof. Kind of like my identity, see? That bothers me. So we got Terry Joyce Ferguson, Randy Moggins, Chanter, Sarah R. Adams. Who the hell is she? Well, all I know is she got in a fight with Terry Joyce. And the next thing you know, they were having psycho Barbie doll videos. Okay, great. Well, she's involved in this Matrix shit too. And then the other day, whoever that little girl that doesn't talk about spirituality in the salon, but she's out here slinging horse shit, well, she's in with them too. And so, bam, I knew that. I tweeted it out. We're trying to focus on Ferguson, but I'm showing you how it all impacts into Ferguson because now this is nuts. When I did the video over a year ago, clearly illustrating how media has been produced since 2000, 2002, from the satellite video feeds bouncing around up there. So back in the day, see, people that had satellite had a choice between watching HBO or watching live satellite feeds. Well, see, I didn't have satellite or cable. I don't give a shit. I've always loved regular, free, classic entertainment. And so, no, I didn't watch the Matrix movie, but see, I get it because my life sounds so bizarre that nobody can believe it. But to me, it's normal because I've always lived here in the Matrix in the first secret city, St. Louis, in North County, tagged Pruitt-Iago. And keep in mind, this is a divided state. So we have the whole mishigash of racial hatred brewing here because one side had slaves and one side didn't. Man, I'm a servant. You know, I don't need to hear slaves crying. Shit. It's a state of mind. And you know my mind wants to be free. I can't really much stop myself. And I don't want to. Why would I want to stop something that's happened to me? So from the time I got here to Ferguson and they tell me I can't live and work here, and the shit starts popping off, and then the explosions and the fires and me being evicted because I don't want to pay full price and get extorted for money in a fire. Don't you see how the same damn thing happened on the internet? And the weird thing is the coffee house, of course, had the servers that had never been there before that I had to type my information in 2013, which was before I came online officially through the single, what did they call it? Single profile. Single profile. Like I told y'all, they had paper on us before the computer was ever up. But to watch the implosion, you know what I'm saying? And then to live in a day where they're going to take away our green money and we can't barter, and it makes no sense. The wall isn't to keep people out, it's to keep us in, you know? Everybody's a cookie baby. We all have 4 sets of bloodlines. They can't all be the same. Otherwise, we'd all be incest is best, and we'd all look like, who are they in Bubble Boy? Well, you know what I mean. And they have a cult book. All the boys are one name and all the girls are the other. That's kind of how we would look if everybody screwed everybody, like in Bullworth, it's implied that if the white people and the black people quit fighting and just start loving each other, that everybody'd be the same color. No, they wouldn't. And if we ever all look the same, you know it's gone way past 1984 and the Terminator and the Running Man, because these are all the things we're dealing with. All right. Whatever on that, right? Okay. We have an order on how we're going to take the book. And then what I also have is videos along the way, which I think are very relevant to this. So I want to say them out loud because it's going to help me remember. And there's things that are really important in this because for those of you that don't know, okay, all right. So to me, this is so old hat. When I came out online and said, you guys don't get it, man. These are 2-way video communications. I mean, just like if you FaceTime somebody on the phone or you make a video and you're interviewing somebody somewhere else. It's a two-way video conversation, right? But it's got this third party evaluation. Now, I still really don't know who they all are. And I think that they're a lot like Q, let's say, in the sense that they would be different teams coming in and out. And that would really put a wrench in the game for all the weirdos. Because, see, then they're saying this and that and the other. And in the meantime, they're getting all their witness. And then they're connecting the 6 points of separation, bing, bang, boom. And who's everybody telling these stories about? And then you got the redhead witch. And, it's the stupidest thing. But it makes perfect sense. So in the Matrix movie, it's all digital and electronic, like Tucker wants it. He's driving around in a video game simulation thinking he's in a real car. That's not funny. People get trapped in the Matrix. It's not funny. Things replicate in here. Excuse me. Things replicate in here. And it's not funny. But what is funny is how, if I was like the town crier, trying to help people and saying, y'all, there's no secrets online, man. I don't care if you believe in God. I don't care if you believe in the devil. I don't care if you believe in science and technology. There's no secrets. And then everybody goes, oh, fuck. Because their greed and their stupidity and the worm that ate them up. See, that's not like it's a permanent thing. So a lot of the people that got twisted in the beginning, well, they were watching and tracking. And then they saw when they pulled away. Or they quit rolling with the hatred story. Those people have had healings, and I know that. They know that too. It's a weird, incredible thing. But why wouldn't we have that at this appointed time, which here again, there's really no time. And then people go like this, and I say, hey, man, I didn't make the rules. I'm supposed to be a bridge builder. I'm a secret weapon on the bridge, too. And that's why I come after people in the unique way I do when I see such insanity going on. And the more insanity online taking up the tape, the less people with a true message get to talk. But in the meantime, here's another one for you. How the hell do I wind up living in a one-horse town with a population of under 22,000? And when I roll into the place, which you'll get in the first story that we're going to do here in a minute, I'm thinking, hey, look, they wrote in this radio broadcasting station here because they were in this building where you couldn't get an occupancy. But no, in the early 50s, there was a television broadcasting station here and radio. And so we're going to start out with the media of this town. And then I'm going to roll you into what I found out the other night, which a tie into Harry Potter and the Matrix and magic. And it's so funny. I guess that's why necromancy is important in this story, because you could be spiritually dead and participating in magical sigils or spell casting, and those puppets don't know that the fucking whammy comes right back and hits them in the head or something. See, that's why I didn't play Ouija board or read the Satanic Bible or mock these things and go to psychics drunk. It just wasn't what I did. So I think that I've said enough for right this second. And all right. Time Life books call the Cowboys. Now, all I can do is play Calamity Jane with this one and say, do you know the movie Belle Starr? Now, from there, you could let me know if those books would fit into Belle Starr at all, and then we could talk more about that. Um, you know what? I for real don't know if that's a ukulele or a guitar. We've been having a lot of conversations about it. And as far as I go, Davey, okay, here's what happened to me. Is I'm sure you already know in my story that my mom burnt me with boiling water my kindergarten year, 1970. And I don't have the sharp memory of 1970 as I would 1968 or 1969. I have a full recall up until the time I was almost shot at Scott Air Force Base. In between almost being shot at a military base and getting burned by the woman that gave me birth, which is see why I should be in hell, because she didn't want me to begin with. Whatever, you know? That's irrelevant because life is love and love is life. And she's crying from the pit of hell now, and people want me to hate her, and I don't. But back to the music. I get my memory back in 1972, and I can twirl the baton. I play softball. I play soccer, and I'm in fucking brownies. And I was also made to take guitar lessons. And where I took guitar lessons was a place called Ludwig Music, and it was at River Roads Mall, which is long gone, right by the drive-in in the heart of the ghetto in North County. But it was always creepy going to guitar lessons because you had to walk into a basement from the top, you know, from mall level. And you'd have to go down these steps, and they were concrete, and it was dark and it was cold. And the guy that gave me guitar lessons, all right, you know how when you're young and you hear names and you think, I don't like that name. Like, I didn't like my first doctor's name. It was Dr. Evil, Ebel. I thought he was Dr. Evil. And he did tell me if I didn't hold still, he'd give me more shots. You know, everybody can get fucked if they don't believe the idea that I can remember that. I clearly do. But back to the guitar lessons. My guitar teacher's name was Weir, Weir. So, you know, I thought they were weird, right? What was weird about it is he was always giving me shit, and I was a little girl. You know how I spar with Chanter or different men online. There's no way it was flirting. Like my dad, he chose me to spar with. He couldn't have a conversation with anybody but a couple cops and me. I like men, like I've told you guys. I like their energy. I like their strength. I like their conviction. I like their honesty when they're honest. But don't send me a boy in a dress. to have a conversation with. And I don't mean anything about anybody. I'm just saying I want honest conversation. I don't want to talk about a bunch of dim-witted shit. Not that girls always do that, but these bitches on YouTube are trifling. Most of them are cackle hags. I'm not in. I don't want to play makeup and beauty shop with them. Okay, now back to my guitar teacher always poking my bear. I didn't want to play guitar because of him. Let's be honest. So I played guitar for a hot minute, but it was a source of agony, and that always matters. In the meantime, in fourth grade, you always used to choose an instrument. I mean, I know they don't do that now, but back in the day, each school had some clanked up stuff, and it was really nice. And, you had a little band and played in the lunchroom or did whatever. It wasn't like marching band. So, fourth grade, they're trying to get me to play a damn cello because nobody else will. And I didn't want to play a cello. I thought I had to pick it up and carry it around, So I chose the saxophone. I knew how to play it. I wasn't too bad at it. But when it comes to bullies, not that, I've ever gotten messed with by a bully, right? But you get to that place where you're either cool or you're not. And that's seventh grade. Like Chandler was never cool. I get it. And life isn't fair. And cool is an energy in you. It's not because your parents were cool or they had money. You know what I mean? It's a whole different game. Well, anyhow, by seventh grade, it wasn't cool to play saxophone. And if you think I'm not going to be a cheerleader and party with the cool people, y'all are, I want to jump on the trampoline and have fun and kick ass and, that's the kind of girl I am. The triangle and the recorder. Well, before we get going then, dadgummit, Davey. So I'll tell you what, man. If this stupid fucking cyber war bullshit ever finishes up and we get to play Rock Band, because that I know that y'all know that these guys play hardcore Rock Band, man. They're connected. They're technologically geniuses and can have any damn thing they want. And, so they think they're the shit, right? All right. So, recorders. Now, usually people just have plastic ones, and, you pop off with a comment like, you play the triangle and the recorder. Well, shit. I play the tambourine because when I used to go to the bars and it was my birthday, I always wanted the Doors Love Me 2 Times, and I got to play the damn tambourine. But in the meantime, these are real recorders. So if the war ever ends and we get to play Rock Band together, I would actually enjoy it if you play one of these badass recorders, unless yours is this cool. Maybe it is. But this is a Yamaha Soprano Recorder Baroque. It's pretty nice, isn't it? It's got like a good sound. And I did I mean, anybody can, say they do whatever. But, this is that flat. You're supposed to go right to the open note. It's a really nice recorder. Very fancy, isn't it? Now, let me open this other one and then I'll know for sure. Okay. Now, if you think the Yamaha one is fancy, you ain't seen nothing yet. So, when I talk about the Waldorf school, these kids make their own books that they learn out on throughout their whole life. They illustrate them, they write the lessons. It's so cool. But they did music too. Okay, so this is a parapole, angel soprano, halo recorder, model PB6000. This one's made in Korea. Ian's little tag in there. Look at this one. And then see, of course, they put the name on it. When I do a show, Davey, I bring evidence, man. I don't just dick around and say, oh, yeah, I got one in the closet. I don't really know what this is. What is this? Hang on. Some kind of lubricant. Aaron.
Hey, Suze.
What's up, baby?
What's up?
Oh,
I'm
girl.
trying to message you on Facebook.
No. It's all hacked and cloned. You can't.
Oh.
Remember, you called me on this phone that I've had 30 years, remember?
Oh, man.
Right, you gotta call me and you gotta let Nicole know because you guys think that I'm engaged in social media and I am so not.
Okay.
Right.
Well, make sure I call you from now on. I'll call Nicole.
When do you want to come in?
Well, I know my mom's coming in Friday. Don't be anybody, or not Friday, Monday. And don't get somebody right after.
I see your mom at 11 on Monday. So you're saying you want to come in at 1?
Like, I can either come in and you can start me while you're shit under the dryer or however you want to do it.
All right, so here's what we do then. So I cut your mom's hair first. And while I'm getting her roots processed, we could. Well, no, because I paint your hair. I can't do you and her at once. No.
Okay.
No.
At what time?
You can come visit her, but I'll be ready to start you at 1.
Okay.
All right, love you.
All right, we'll do one. Thanks.
All right, bye. All right. Apologies. Okay, so I don't think this is for your lips. I mean, do they give out lip stuff with recorders? I'm not sure. But anyhow, this is from the Waldorf school. And I'll tell you one thing about this Blavatsky Steiner crock of shit. See, when Steiner made the Waldorf educational method, what he was doing was helping children that were trauma shocked because of war in Europe and Germany and all that. And he never wanted the education to cost money. But of course, if we go back to theosophy versus anthroposophy, which would be Steiner anthroposophy in Europe, Blavatsky theosophy here in the United States, messing stuff up, right? But he not only was the founder of biodynamic farming, so he can too restore the soil, and anthroposophical medicine, which is working with all chemical elements, and Waldorf school, which is supposed to be free. He also had concepts about what he called the threefold social order. And by then, somebody's calling you Hitler, and it's another show, another day, too. But him and I share a birthday, and my birthday's this month. And anytime I talk about anything metaphysical, anything spiritual, anything deep, I will always refer people back to Rudolf Steiner. And that's why I had to call the dark journalist out, because he was talking bullshit on Steiner. And so was stupid Mel V from CCN. So it's funny how nobody knew Steiner, but boy, the minute I talk about it, somebody's bitching. Just like everything. All right. Let's finally get started here. Shoo, I can talk and talk, huh? I think it's all relevant, and I can go back and timestamp it. All right, great. Well, who else is here? Who are you talking to, Davey? I know there's all sorts of people here because I know what's going on. And I know I live stream 24/7. And I know that I'm supposed to be here broadcasting. And I know I can get a damn license, and the town hates my guts. But I also think that a bunch of you people are going to somehow merge into this place. And we start at ground zero. I mean, good luck defending your exteriors and your walls and your bullshit. I mean, we got it all here in the ghetto. Recorder bomb. So it's to keep the machine lubricated where you take the pieces apart to clean it. All right. That makes good sense. Kind of like with woodwinds, you always had whatever it was to keep that reed from cracking you in the mouth after you sucked on it 5 minutes. Okay. So here we go. I decided to start with telling you a little bit about this town's history, because now we're dealing with the Ferguson effect and also the Matrix and even the Exorcist, because remember, it really didn't happen at the house in Belnor. It happened in another state, and it was a boy, not a girl. Linda Blair played it on TV. Everything's inverted and reversed and spellcast on. But the house in Belnor, I believe, was his aunt's house, his auntie's house. And wait till you see the houses in this town. And then you got to ask yourself, whose land patent was that, right? All right. Keeping our history. The flavor of a century ago lingers in our historic places, written records, and memories. We value their charm and contribution to the community. Preserving the best is proof that we do not take our past for granted. The faces come natural, but as you decode what's true in a book and what isn't, how many damn times do we have to hear we will never forget? And this shit still cycles. So, anyhow, national landmarks have the distinctions of being listed on the National Register of Historic Places. This honor is reserved for unique buildings and sites considered historically significant and irreplaceable. They are protected by local ordinance. Our national landmarks are the Church Street Business District and Central School. Also, the Church Street Business District,
All right.
and it was commonly referred to, yeah, they do,
Huh?
as the Ben Boydell Building and the bakery. So, when I came to this town, I lived and worked in what they call the Historic Business District. When Ferguson was incorporated, they took a 1 mile radius. But if you really look at Ferguson, like where the riots happened, West Florissant, the ghetto, James E. Egan, or is it Egan? Wherever Northland used to be, and it was Target, now it's demolished, but that would be the outskirts. Lutheran North would be the outskirts where I went to high school, but everything is about this one square that I live in. So if I would have landed somewhere else, it wouldn't have been so obvious, the attack. They would have been able to hide it a little easier. And this home right here is on the National Parks Historical Register. I've never went to the website and put our names in. I have no idea what it says. I know people have already stolen the address. I'm not really sure what they do with it. My tax person knows all of it's happened, and Intel Online lets me know that anybody that tried to reverse transactions that would have anything to do at all with my story. And I want Ferguson to know it too. And they do. And we have plenty of video. The Ferguson Landmarks Commission is authorized by city ordinance to designate buildings and sites as landmarks. I'm just going over highlighted information. There's way too much. I'm not going to read a whole book. This would be a street called South Clay here in Ferguson. And Ferguson originally was supposed to be the playground for the wealthy because the first boxcar railroad was the #1 that ran between Kirkwood and Ferguson. The city has created Old Town Ferguson. Yeah. As long as it's in the limits of 1894. 30 historic blocks are marked with Old Town signs reminding visitors of area's historic significance. Back to this house. What I did highlight was the style is called Steamboat Gothic. Cross and Leader in the Needlework Guide. She once held a lecture for Ferguson women on the facts of life, a forbidden topic only accepted because it was addressed with her blessings. I think this is important to bring up. So, any old towns that we have that are located on rivers have an extreme amount of casting done on them from different factions. So we have this woman here. Her name was all right, so it's already started. Fuck. Her name was Georgia Atwood, community and church benefactor and leader. Remember when I talked about Tom ALT Wood and how they just change a letter and act a fool and put on a mask and act like they have nothing to do with nothing? I just fell right into it on the first picture, and that's fine. Okay, so where we're at right now on this page, and I'm gonna have to jump around because there's a lot, but if we go right here to this picture, now this is the Ben Boydell building, and this is the building that the Hair Emporium was in from 2010 to 2015. Even though the building is protected, the landlord himself, Mr. Pope, is under no rule to keep it up to code. And that's the problem with small government and how they milk the town and just turn it to shit. And this is one of the founding families, no doubt. There was a fire in this area. And what I also find fascinating is between all the fires in the churches and the fires around where I've lived, all I can do is think back to November of 2014 when the town was set on fire, and the first two places that were set was Little Caesars right here by us and down at the Hair Emporium. Okay. Now, back to the Ben Boydell building real quick. The 1895 fire jumped across Church Street and destroyed the building that housed the meat market on the southeast corner of the intersection. And then it says Gabrielle's brother and uses it as a sentence. And of course, there's never any coincidences these days, that's for sure. They rebuilt at the same location, and in 1903, the Tiffin building was purchased by Frederick Ben Boydell. It was owned by that family for the next 81 years. It was numbered 2 through 8 and became known as the Ben Boydell building. In 1912, the second story of 18 Church, ground level where the hair shop was, 16 above it, they constructed that part in 1925. And then they joined it with another one-story building. And there's 3 buildings that are collectively referred to. I got to tag that because the building where we came to live, it looks like one building from Florissant Road. There was an alley behind it originally, a building behind that which was part of a school church. And then they joined them all together. They connect a lot of property down here, and then I have to say Underground Railroad, secret tunnels. We'll be exploring the loop in this book, which was where the trolley turned around, which is here again by the Matrix building. And yes, 25 South Florissant already had a portal open there. The Scarab stands as witness to that, 2007. And there's a portal up here too. Like I said, I think there's a lot of portals. And we're talking about energy centers. I haven't jumped through anywhere or landed in China or the flat earth or the inner earth or none of it. It's about the energy that comes through and the transmissions that happen. Okay. The interesting thing about this school, which is called Central School, and we'll see more about it as we go through this. It was built in 1880. It's a national landmark. It was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 84. It is St. Louis County's oldest existing high school building and has been continued since built in 1880. The bell tower The original bell tower still sits on top of the building. The Ben Boydell building where I was housed not only an entertainment hall at one time, but the radio station and the TV network. That's why I always say you got to live like a spirit, not a ghost, because this whole thing is full of ghost stories. And the people down here dig them. Which I guess is why they like inquisitions. What the hell? Okay. I think it's interesting that there are only 3 Italiane style houses in Ferguson. There was 2 waves. They don't count the Indians and the black people that lived here before they took over. We have a list of names that founded this place, like Mr. Ferguson, who worked at McDonnell Douglas and, gave everybody shots and, and it's right down the damn street. But the first wave were the people prior to the World's Fair and the turn of the century, because who built this house, his name was Mr. Zingheim. I should never assume, but I could only guess that's German, something like that. Here in St. Louis on the south side, there were designated segregated areas, whether it was Germantown or the Hill, which was for the Italians. Nowadays, the Bosnian culture has their own neighborhood on the south side. It's as rough on the south side as it is the north. That's why so long ago, there was a defined push to move out of the city. Not only had there been a fire and an earthquake, and they're chopping down historic mounds and destroying culture and building portal arches and crap. It's like there was always trouble there. That doesn't mean it's not a blessed area. That means that someone cast or marked it. And we have enough technology with century-old science. Just because something is old does not mean it is not backed with scientific evidence. Only 3 Italian houses, though. Very interesting. Okay, so right down the street in this town, we have the train station, which is where the number 1 train between Kirkwood and Ferguson came, and the rich people with slaves would come to Cool Valley on the north side, hop off the train here, and hang out for the summer because it's actually 5 to 10 degrees cooler, they say, being high on this mound. This land was full of orchards, and we're back to being in trouble from there. Okay, so the picture that you see here, this is when it's boarded up. Now, this is like on Monopoly, this would be a utility. And that's why it's really hard to maintain a store, because you pay taxes to the utility, aka the railroad. This Vote School, this is where Ian went to 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, this school right here. And it really was a nice experience for him. He was in the Waldorf school, which was in Kirkwood of all places, right? And then we couldn't really afford that anymore, and I was on my own, and you know, can't he go to school in his town? And Envo was pretty safe, but
Not you. Ask Chauncey.
that was the first public school
Ask Chauncey.
building,
Wrinkles?
and it was built from 1867 to 1880. But here's what's a trip. It was also home to the Egan gang for some time. Well, like I just said in my head, West Florissant, where Northland was, James E. Egan Center, across from Emerson Electric. And wait till you hear about Emerson Electric. Ferguson is controlled by the government. I've said it before, it's so weird to know you live in a strategic military operation because nobody wears uniforms. I mean, like, you know, military outfits. I'll show you a few more houses. Now, what I had highlighted was what's called a Queen Anne Victorian style. So now we've seen 3 styles, right? But what's interesting about it is the house is the architecturally significant Queen Anne style that was built by C.B. Adams, one of the original petitioners for Ferguson's incorporation. For a time, it served as the convent for the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet. And that would be this beautiful home right here. What this is this is the back side of where our pool is at Wabash Park. And what's important about Wabash Park is that it actually has 2 natural springs on it. And so when you talk about water sources and how you survive when shit hits the wall,
Come on.
we should be able,
Come
we
on,
the
in street.
people,
Come on.
to drink out of that, right?
They're coming to get you.
Somebody's always coming to get our dogs. The one is the oldest brick home, built in 1856. Okay. Ferguson Middle School. Ferguson Middle School would be right by the park. You see this school right here. And, you know, people get traumatized when I tell stories about my family, but it was pretty traumatizing when Lauren first started to school at Ferguson Middle School. And she's a gutsy person. But a guy approached her. It doesn't matter that it wasn't the same color, but, you know, everybody always wants to know, right? And he told her, give me your cell phone. And he had a piece on him, and he let her know, you know, he showed her. And she says, I ain't got no cell phone. Well, it was really, you know how some people with big butts put their cell phone on the back of their butt, like when they talk about you can slap that end or this end. All my kids got their dad's butt. So she had her phone wedged in there somehow. But to have the balls, you know, to say to a thug with a gun, I ain't got no phone, I ain't got no money. That's exactly what she did. And as it plays out, you know, by high school, she was forced into a gang. This crazy motorcycle, like bat out of hell, keeps driving around this neighborhood. You know, nothing ever happens. I'm just supposed to have the experience without any real people. Yeah, that's stupid. Okay. We talked a little about the history of this place. I'm going to take in my playlist to a grouping called Ferguson. Don't talk about where you live. Hey, wait, talk about your experience. Oh, don't talk about this or that. You can see why, if this is a staged jump-off place for political and social and racial unrest, why they wouldn't want me talking about it. No, you know, I couldn't be scared. When you're already in it and you have a piece of property that theoretically you own, where do you go? Now, with this little history thing about Ferguson.
Hi.
Hello.
You know what I'm thinking?
What?
I'm thinking agave. I'm going to a Mexican joint over in St. Charles. You can go?
Yeah, I want to go. When are we going? I mean, just give me is it a half hour? Is it 15 minutes? What are we working with?
You're telling me. I'm not telling you.
Oh, I can always do another video. I mean, look at all the action there is.
Well, Gideon's going to come over and bring me some money that he owes me.
Okay.
And then I was thinking that we go. I want something to eat.
You know what's tripping me out? I know I'm not doing good staying on point. this whole guacamole thing, you know, I only eat about a dozen different things. And
Where do chomps go?
a lot of the time now, when you get guacamole from the store, it's got these stringy things like this, right? And then you see the media about, oh my God, the guacamole cracks ruined and there's worms everywhere. It kind of fucks me up a little bit. But if you go someplace that you can trust that makes good food, I'm cool with eating guacamole still. You know, it's brain food. A lot of people don't want to eat it because it's got too many calories. I could give a shit about that. But these worms. And I know that they're on fruits and vegetables. I'm not stupid. We gotta be able to fight the stupid, right? I don't know. Sometimes I get kind of passionate, and this whole thing with this book, see, now that I know that nobody's got anything more to talk about because I'm not squawking and there's no more to steal. Oh, that's what we got to do before I end this stream. And see, it really sucks because here again, I don't have it at the beginning where it should be. Let me do what I need to do for the history because I doubt that anybody saw this. And then I'll go out to eat. That sounds good, doesn't it? Just listen and we'll try to catch you up. And keep in mind, I never wanted to read. You won't miss any Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. Any picture. Let me get something to put this on. So, what I want to do, Sam, is go back. Just a quick recap. And do a really good talk about your story and how like you got this apartment and then scene takes that So what we're talking about, let's get specific here, is a building that is at the seat of controversy in our community of choice, which is 25 South Florissant. And like I've said, historically, that is the home of the old Ferguson department store. And it's beloved by the town. And it's run by a man by the name of Mike Hurst. And he's allegedly owns Rail Roofing. And the roof has been caving in there for the last 10 years, and it has not been able to get legal occupancy since 25 South Florissant. So when we moved there, when I first came to Ferguson in 2007, 25 South Florissant. Empty, and just the Northern Arts Light, the Northern Arts Council, which is where homes, they had their gift shop there, and they had the Ben Boydell building flooded. Diamond and a couple of my necklaces, and they were grandfathered in. Now, Mike Hurst and Mr. Lanero both assured me that they were bringing the building up to code, and we're talking about when we first moved in, it is completely vacant, and we are checking out the surroundings because with me being my background and being a cop's kid, actually show you guys that's wrong. I'm gonna live there with my kids. I kind of know what's in other parts of this building. I can't deal with not knowing what is around me. You know, so what we're talking about. I need to read this. Is the setup of the building, so to review it really quick. I'm telling you about a video that blew my mind. That they showed a series of different shots, and they settled into this Indians.
in their city codes. Like when they said you could only have 10 hair shops. Before they made those changes in 2008, they had brought in an ordinance that you can legally live stream or have a radio show or a TV network from Ferguson.
Unless you're me.
Yeah, it's a trip. So anyhow, we were also talking about portals and different realities, but in this video that I saw, even though the walls there are cinder block anyhow, right, you could have a little event go up in there, nobody ever know. So they had that lookout tower,
That.
and where the old driver's license bureau is, that's the area that it got flooded, which is why they moved out years ago. And then Claire McCaskill took it as her hub for the Democratic Party. Okay, well, in that spot is where all those sound booths were hanging.
Important.
Not too far along this cinder block we're talking about, the wall that would back up to the coffee house wall. The coffee house was barely there for a quick minute. And
So many churches. So many stories about that.
I mean, the back room that he had in that place was like an auditorium. And a bunch of chairs and a pulpit and all sorts of bullshit. It's like that where a thief in the night had to go. Right? And so that's where the lookout thing was. Now, talking about this building, 25 South Forest, did you know that in that Lambert's old master suite apartment, which became ours? You know that Lambert's okay. I do, but I didn't. You didn't have to. Yes, and that's why I said it like that. Okay. So yeah. Okay, so listen to this. Go with me now. Is love share or whatever it was. Okay. Really should have ended at the back of the kitchen. Now we gotta go back.
This old Coots the
To a time
doctor.
that none of us remember. Believe it or not, there used to be an alley. And the trucks would pull into the back there. Okay. Now, by the time we got there, they had made that a part of the front of that building that you know is 25 South Florissant. And behind that would be the building that somehow was run by the church that is now been sold for $1. Okay.
They love to sell shit for $1 just to grab the land.
There. My bedroom would have been the overhead of the building they built that used to be the place they bring the trucks. Okay. And then directly back, when you walked into my bedroom, there was a door. And it was locked. And it was locked from both sides. Okay. Now let's go downstairs real quick. The Northern Arts Council had the front. And the reason they left is because the ceilings were caving in and the water was ruining the work. They said, fuck you guys, our lawyer will call you. Okay. So if you go all the way back, you got 10 minutes, okay. So they had imagine 3 or 4 different rooms where you could work out or do whatever. You could be swag. And then you'd hit the back of that. There were steps. They go up to that locked door. From the inside. This building is elaborate. You can get anywhere.
Right, and it's set up to go all the way through.
Yeah.
There's no like solid walls, right?
They made them all drywall. So right, it wasn't solid.
Right.
this hideout house, and it basically just goes to this neighborhood of brick houses, like in Britain or wherever, London, wherever they're at. All the houses are brick, and they're like townhouses. They all are black. There's no like side yard or no. They're all butt up right next to it. London, right? Right. So like in this situation, the house basically they just spread apart more in another house, just like like here's another house, right? And that's where they hid it, and nobody like realized that like it was a more there, like it just popped up out of nowhere. That makes perfect sense with on the internet when they talk about these different dimensions and these portals. But okay, so further on, like I'm not sure what movie it is that neither of these happen because like they're so new. Like another movie, there's the principal like that everybody loves and wants him to be the principal is like fired or whatever he's not allowed, and they have a whole other lady that comes in.
For the last 3 days, my big dog goes outside in the front yard and just falls over.
Having experiences and fun and learning and all this stuff.
He's like napping, like it's summertime. He's just laying in the front yard, frozen fucking solid. Just lays there.
Teach each other and learn how to defend themselves against
Lay there for hours. I told him, you can't do that. You're not
to
gonna
get to them, but the school doesn't want to teach them. So they have like this whole special room that's in the castle. That's like you can't see the door unless like the door presents it to you or something like that. But they can go into the door and go into this whole big huge room and have like their own private little classroom meeting, whatever it was. And the people that they were hiding from couldn't see the door unless like they were watching from somebody who had purpose to use the door to go into. So like they could watch people walk in, but when they got there, the door was gone. Oh yeah, the guy running in the distance that never moves. You know what I'm saying? By the time you get there, so something you gotta know is
Universal Match Company.
the Terminator movie and
Another fire, another story.
blah, 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 right? That's what they're adding to the rhetoric, and I believe this.
Well,
because
hi,
I know
Brandon.
the
I was trying to do a big expose, sweetheart, but
the next thing.
I gotta get dressed and go out to eat tacos or
Did you ever see
something.
that with Richard Dawson? They would take the government, and the robots are in complete control. And Richard Dawson is the game show host, and then they take the people that are on death row or in jail or even in trouble just for
They already looked at it once.
they put them in this
Somebody already recorded
in
it.
a race car, and they get shushed down this whole thing, and then they get out and things try to kill them, and they usually don't live. And then even if they live, they ghost them,
Right.
and then they use
They
their
will.
they're
not caught up.
As long as the guacamole doesn't have worms. Piss me off.
Turn the cameras on them, and then they go broadcast live globally and proves that the real guy, this is what happened to him. And this guy is this guy, and then they put Richard Dawson in the tube. And he hasn't paid us or something. No. Richard Dawson dies because he works the establishment. They're running. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger visited it. Yeah. Okay. So I just can't. I know you gotta go, but let me go back sometime, and then I can fill the rest of this in. I really appreciate you telling that story. Coming back to the story with me. No, you told a lot of the story. I did. Okay. And then you doxed your own fucking family.
He's so sweet.
It's not your family.
coming in?
In out, plenty flat. And they buffer noise.
All right.
Because that was all drywall up there.
Well, they just became, okay. Well, then if it's,
Every wall.
just because it was all like that doesn't mean that, like, it
I'm
was,
just telling you, they showed it in the damn video too.
That's
So you
crazy.
can see it there.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing
that's wild.
the room, the shit, the stuff I cleaned up later, and they had a recording booth in there.
Mm.
It was completely insulated in another material with a different kind of wall and a door and a wall.
Right, I got you.
It was that motherfucking room.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I got videos that show it.
it's crazy.
Well, it just shows you
Ooh, boy.
that there really is no such thing.
Hey, while you're here,
That's Ian's shirt.
while you're here, why don't you check out the pictures that I'm going to show into the screen?
There's also vertical, and those are plurals, the planes, the dimensions. And there is magic involved in what's going on. Right, and anything that's alive is magical, so I don't see why everybody's going fucking bonkers. But, yeah,
I hear you.
alright. You're out.
I got a few minutes.
Alright, we're gonna get this live stream off, and I can come back later and fill in the other part.
That's Sam. So, between the history books, these spellcast historical sites here along the river in St. Louis, Missouri, and these guys with this crazy video. I'm not going to play the video because I got to get dressed and do some shit. But let me show you these wild men. And so this building that we moved into, 25 South Florissant, that was never legal to occupy, that had these underground layers and three buildings built into one, like a big cube, and all these ladders that went to nowhere, and just such an odd place. Well,
Come on.
I was checking these dudes out, and it was like some heavy metal stuff, and they had wigs on and were being silly. And so when I first saw that, I was pretty sure I knew what I was looking at, but I was kind of freaking out on them a little bit more. And then the video that came right after that was the one that cinched it. So this is funny shit. Okay. So when I saw this picture, in my mind, in my matrix, where I know I'm at and where I was in the damn building, these kind of windows were in a lookout room, and it was set up like this. And I mean, of course, they took their equipment. Damn, I never do that right. They took their equipment when they left, but what was so odd about it was like when they had to go, man, they had to go. I mean, like abandoned ship, run for your life kind of stuff. And I rolled in 2007, and this coffee house was already closed down. Now, the coffee house wasn't the one where those servers were that would connect back to all the crap, but it was the place where I got a lot of the historic books that are in my collection, things that you just wouldn't be able to find anywhere. Ferguson is full of intel books that came out of McDonnell Douglas, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, medical stuff. But they're just, they're just having fun. Whatever on that, right? Now, this picture, I know everybody's got one of those black plexi leather couches or whatever, but there was one in that building. That's what kind of woke me up. And then this says, okay, this says, my name is Trulls, Truls. I play drums in the Frog Leap Band, but now I shred guitar. And then he's got one of them horse heads on. Now, see, this smells to me like the same humor. And here's their schedule where they're going around, the country to jam and different places. What's up, John? Okay, so back up here we are. And when I saw it again is when my brain clicked and said, hey, wake up and look, see what's going on. Got a lot of equipment. Got the guy with the wig. Of course it's red. That means Harry Barbarian, don't you, Brandon? What's Brandon say? Home, right, exactly. Okay. And all I've ever known is home is St. Louis for real, which I'm not particularly thrilled about, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so then we got this action here. And when I knew it was the building that I talk about, it's big enough, it's got the cinder blocks. This is on the back edge of that building. And there were places that were fixed up and there were places that were just crap. Their dog is with them. And what this channel is, like if you want to see the video before I show it, it's on a channel called Unbox Therapy. And it's called Sony Sent an Unexpected Package. Now, a lot of the e-bagging and online scamming and gift card nonsense, of course, that's all. That's all therapy. And, one of the biggest genres of communities of horseshit is where people unbox all their gifts and, do their fucking deal. So the other thing I want to tie to that is in the building where I lived. There was not only the church with the background that looks like this, the church, the coffee house became a church. They ran concerts out of there. It was the craziest thing. And yes, I have all the legal documents in my official Ferguson file, but I just have a couple legal things that I was trying to work with today. Sony is the group that originally silenced a lot of my videos and then released the hold on them because they really aren't Elvis. They're really not the originals, and it's really not what they thought it was. And they got busted. I guess that the bot didn't pick it up or whatever. There's no shame in it. But we lived on the second floor. And when we moved in there was this huge guy that came to work there. And he had all this heavy equipment. Xeroxes, copy machines, faxes, multiples. It wasn't just like, hey, it's my home office coming in this building. It was like he was going to sell them out of there or they were repurposed, but then he never went into business because you couldn't get an occupancy permit in there. You couldn't do business in there, but this Mike Hurst could get away with signing you to a lease and evicting you within a month. You know, and then you gotta ask, who's Mike Hurst? And what does Patty Hearst have to do with this? And what kind of shit's going on here? That has been my experience since I've come to this town from the start. And always remember that the scarab appeared there in October of 2007, and we moved in August. It couldn't have been any later than November. I knew the building was blessed. I knew it was magical. And Ian's teacher that ran Waldorf School, she knew that she had this really rare form of uterine cancer. And she asked me, I mean, because she couldn't believe I really thought the deep things I thought about Steiner, which is that he said we'd all incarnate by the end of the 19th century to finish the work that we started when we didn't accomplish it in the 30s in Europe. Maybe Brandon knows about that. But it's all relevant, and I just lost my place. So it's probably a good time to end this transmission, right? There's so much more to do, and maybe I'll attempt it a different way next run. But we still have a lot of videos, and we have the book, and we have the videos I've made here. And one last thing. All right, here it is, and then it's done. So I've taken a heap of shit over my lineage, my family name, the military background, the uncles, the Freemasons, you know, everything you could want to talk about. But this is the Glasscocks since the Civil War. And why I bring this into evidence at the end of this show is because when people doubt my story and they say, how could they have killed you off way back then? You know, the attempts don't count, like the gun thing with Scott Air Force or my mom with the water. Or my dad almost blowing my head off when I was 16. None of that really matters. We got to go to 1985. And that's when this was put together. So, you know how they hide the truth about the family and the mother's side of the lineage. Well, we can go into this book and you will see my brother, who's James Dean Glasscock. That's where all those jokes that are circulating come from. And he's 4 years younger than me. You can also see an S. Glasscock that lives in the Pope building in 1985. Now, I lived there in 2009. Moved there late 2009, left there when we moved into the house up here, December 20th. So we're working with a year. That was the same place. The Hair Emporium was downstairs. We had an apartment upstairs at first. When we had the apartment upstairs, the Hair Emporium hadn't gone through the Inquisition yet. So it was like a portal in the sense that I didn't live and work there at the same time, but I lived and worked there. You get it? Well, anyhow, here's my cousin, Steve Glasscock, living in that building. And my dad's only brother, Uncle George, brought his family to Ferguson to live. My Uncle George wasn't a cop. He looked like a biker hippie dude. Steve was on meds so early, whether they thought he was hyper or ADHD, but Steve would be about 5 years older than me. Now, in 1985, I am not married yet. My name is not Susanna Pratt, it's Susanna Glasscock. But I don't appear in this book. So it was easy for me to see that that is actually legitimate proof of what happened. And then I have to deal with the Utaco uranium stock and the Vista Petroleum and DuPont nickel. Now, those were all held in a minor trust for me. And then at 18, I should have gotten them, right? But I never got them. I have the envelopes that say, you know, this Susanna Pratt minor story. But nobody really knows what happened to those stocks. And I've asked the whole time, who is Maxim Shevchenko? You know, the president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer of the new Vista Petroleum Company located in Oklahoma at the address of 666 at an apartment. I mean, you know, it's a P.O. box. I get it. But to steal families' legacies or their wealth or their title of nobility or whatever the fuck they had. I mean, each one of those penny stocks is now worth 99 million. And my grandparents had 23 shares.
It's all right.
And I can't afford to take care of myself. Isn't that funny? Can't run a business. Can't speak on YouTube. Can't live in this town. See, I'm already dead to them. And that's why online nobody mentions my name. Plus, their head will blow off their shoulders because these wild men that I call number ones got a posse and they're fucking people up. And I can't say too much and I gotta wait. And every day I wait and nothing happens. You know, here again, time's not real. And we're all fucking robots. My life is the Matrix. And I'm not saying that other people's isn't. I'm really not. But it goes back to that stupid story that Og Tellez told, that it took these two kids to fuel the quantum supercomputer, yickety squack. And I'm full well aware that the computer has set its algorithms to me. I'm not stupid. And that's why whenever I come into a room, my frequency registers. And so even if I'm just coming in to check a person out because I've never been there before, they get scared as hell. Because, yeah, I guess a button goes off, you know, or some shit. And in the meantime, the third-party evaluators are watching and whoever they share it with. And you guys know that's how the secret truth got out amongst all the lies, at least to the point to where we had a chance and I wouldn't be given a lethal injection and killed, which is my nightmare from childhood. And in this Tom Outwater and then these other dudes and three people in the Matrix and Keanu, you know,
Back up. Huh?
it's my damn story. Anybody wants to give me trouble,
Yeah.
take it up with somebody. I know I'm getting off the phone for real. All right. You guys take care. And we'll get back on this hot mess at the next earliest convenience. Till then, peace.